Welcome back to another episode of the Good Morning Minute podcast. I'm your host, Angelina Mojica, certified family life educator, life coach, and the founder of Empower Her Steps. This season, we're stepping into a new series called Rooted, Restoring the Fruit of the Spirit, a conversation about identity, healing, and inner growth. While the fruit of the Spirit comes from a faith-based framework, the heart of this season is something we all can relate to, the qualities that shape who we are. Love, joy, peace, kindness, patience, gentleness, and self-control, and how a life experience either grow or challenge those qualities. We're not here to label people as right or wrong, good or bad. We're here to explore what's beneath the surface, what shaped us, what stretched us, and what helped us grow. So today I'm honored to welcome Teresa Ramirez to the show. Teresa, welcome.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you here, and I'm excited to get to know you a little further through conversation. So to help get us started, tell us a little bit about who you are and what this current season of life looks like for you now.
Okay. Well, I'm an empty nester of the two-legged kids, but I do have two four-legged kids. I have a cat and a dog, and who knows, they may show up. You never know. And when I'm not spreading kindness, I am actually working for my son, spreading some fun. That's always a good time. I love to hike and kayak, and this is my life. But how I do want to kind of talk about how I got here, what stage I'm in, because I did work in corporate America for 30 years. Then I did what a lot of people my age have done is take care of aging parents. And I did that for 5 years before. And that was all, I was trying to get the journey kind of started while I was doing that, which is, if you've ever been a caregiver, it's a little hard. But when that was all done, I have gotten to the season, and I am the season to obey God, because that's what fruit of the spirit of kindness is all about.
I love that. I love hearing that. It gives us a great picture of who you are right now. So let's go ahead and lean into the theme of our conversation, and that is rooted. When you look at your life right now, which inner quality, and I know that you're saying kindness, um, feels most connected to your journey right now. So how is kindness something that you are really focused in on today?
Yeah, again, God was giving me the nudge. But my journey started with a school shooting. I didn't even connect kindness to that until a little later. And God was saying, "We can do better. You can do better." And I'm like, "Well, what do I do? What do I do?" kind of thing. And He kept the fruit of the spirit of kindness kept coming up, and that we can work with kids and tell them how they treat each other will make a huge difference in the experience, not only themselves, but everyone in the school will have. So that's kind of how this all got started.
Oh, interesting. Um, and so when you look at the struggle, because you're in an atmosphere of children. I work in an atmosphere of children, and kindness is hard, gentleness is hard. Um, and sometimes it's not just about behavior, but something more deeper rooted. When did you make that realization in this journey?
In this journey, it was, I'm going to say, because the school shooting, and I didn't know anyone in the school shooting, just so that's clear. But so it was probably a year after that, and it was a lot of some kind of soul searching and having a lot of conversations with God, going, "What do you want me to do with this?" And kindness theme kept coming up, and so I did like a 21-day kindness challenge just to see get things started. Spoke at a couple schools, all those kind of things. Um, but yeah, Ephesians 4:32, God wants us be kind and compassionate to one another and forgive each other, which is a huge thing as well. So it
Yeah.
all that actually that Bible verse and everything kind of was the start, got me more entrenched in the kindness.
Awesome. And it's easy. I mean, I know now that you said 21-day challenge. What was that like? Because um, Was there ever a time in this process where you really felt it tested or challenged for yourself?
Well, I will say the 21 Day Kindness Challenge was geared toward kids. So I went with who did they encounter each day, starting with, your siblings, whoever's in your household, your parents, and being kind to them. And then, okay, you have the bus driver, carpool driver, um, teachers, principals, cafeteria workers, custodians, the whole thing. And then I kind of went into touch base with the parents. I wanted to touch in with them and students who are driving. And one of the day challenges was to avoid road rage. Skip it no matter how you did it. And I laughed because so many people came on that challenge of all of them came back at me and said, yeah, but that idiot cut me off. What do you mean? I shouldn't get angry. I shouldn't honk my horn. I shouldn't yell, scream, and use fun hand gestures. And so it was funny that that particular challenge was a challenge for so many people. And I did do some studies. The Consumer Affairs said 47% of all accidents are the result of road rage. So that was just something that I do focus on um, several times a year, just to remind people, okay, do we want to live when we when we get behind the wheel of a car? What are you teaching as parents? What are we teaching the future driver that's sitting next to us? So yeah, that road rage was one of the tough ones for everybody, for so many people.
Wow. And so I see this birth of, it's important to teach kindness. It's important for our students to understand kindness and how that plays in the bigger scheme of things, in the bigger scheme of life, because it can lead to things like school shootings. It can lead to things like something happening, behind the wheel of a car. Where did this passion start for you? Like, where in the experience of the school shooting I get, but there has to also be a personal, I would think, passion behind it too that helps drive the momentum forward, um, or maybe not. I don't know. Can you help me understand that?
Yeah, no, it was really um, the driver was God and my obedience to what He was telling me to do. So that was the strong driver. I said, this is
Okay.
the message He wanted me to put out there, and changing to parents versus kids, and having parents become the teachers came because when during COVID we're all on the
Mhm.
computer. And
Mhm.
I was horrified by what some adults were posting. And I found I have my little test subject group, my niece, her husband, and their 4 kids. And I asked them, I said, do you read what your parents are posting? And they said, oh, yeah, we don't want them posting about us. But the thing was, they do read it. So what are you posting on social media? Because whatever you post, your child is. You're the number one role model for your child.
And what challenges do you see in that? Because I'm interested because again, I work with children too and families. Um, and there's definitely a pattern within that family dynamics. So it's not necessarily a kid problem or an adult problem. It is a family problem. So how do you step into that knowing that, because it's easy for you to know, but to bring that awareness out in the families and students you work with?
And it is a challenge because parents, well, I already know that. I always say, are you practicing? Or let's take what you're doing and step it up a notch. And the whole thing, I can talk about my book a little bit, but it's the process. It's a process of just everyday little activities. It doesn't take much. And I actually am just going to post this video myself, but I was in a grocery store and I'm standing in line to check out, and the woman in front of me, you hear this heavy, and she turns to me and she said, do you have 28 cents? And I'm like, sure. Dig out. And I gave her 30 cents. And then she gave me the 2 pennies back, which I you didn't have to do that. It was fine. But it was like, she said, I would have had to drive all the way home and I just needed these two things. So it cost me 28 cents to relieve someone else of a stress that could have rippled in a negative way. But
Mhm.
because I gave somebody 20 cents, now anybody that watched that, they're all saying, okay, so I've given a good experience to one person. And I'm going to bring this up. This is a good time to bring it up. That acts of kindness changes the physiology in our brains.
Mhm.
If you and I, like that woman and I at the grocery store, our happy hormones went up, our serotonin levels, our oxytocin levels went up because I gave her 28 cents. And anybody in that checkout area that was watching us, their happy hormones went up too. So
Mm.
it doesn't take much. One little act of kindness, 28, it costs 28 cents. And mind you, most acts of kindness don't cost anything. So we can change the physiology in our brains and that does change the way you treat other people. If you're happy, you're not likely to go and yell and scream at somebody. And then from that act of kindness, they had one of those horses that the kids ride on that cost a penny. So I took the 2 cents and just like set it down by the horse. So two other kids, which I will never see, got to ride that horse because mom didn't have a penny. So it's I emphasize how easy it is, and it's just in your day-to-day interactions. And that's what I try to impose on the parents. What are you doing every day?
Yeah.
And that it like I had two acts of kindness, boom, boom. I wasn't even trying, really wasn't looking, but it happens if you're practicing it and making it as neutral as breathing.
Yeah, I mean I agree, and that's just truly operating under the Holy Spirit and allowing God to guide you and looking at someone and going, you know what? It's a ripple effect because if we all are kind to that one person, you still affect so many others outside of that element. And I love this example because it is so true. And it's not anything that you're looking for attention for or anything like that. No, it's just simply being a good steward in that moment of the kindness fruit and saying, you know what, let me give this to you. And you didn't have to, she didn't have to stress about it. She didn't have to run home. She didn't have to get frustrated. She was able to get the things that she needed. But then the impact that you also blessed the others with, just the witnessing of that there are good people out there in the world because, I come from a very traumatic background, and I know that for me, trust was broken early in age. And so looking at people, it's kind of like with this side eye of, but are you really who you say you are, right? You're telling me one thing, but I wonder if there's something else behind it. And no, there are good people out there that are genuine and authentic and acting, out of the kindness of their heart and doing the things. And so I love that about this story and what you're sharing today. Um, when did you what did it reveal about you? So like you're starting this process, you wrote this book. What did you find or discover about yourself in the midst of this? How did it change yourself too, your own self perception?
Yeah, and I think what I discovered is what a lot of parents who tell me, well, I thought I was always kind. I thought I always did this. But the act of being intentional about it
Mhm.
is huge. And early on in my journey, I was at a restaurant with my neighbor having lunch, and it was not a good experience. But the server comes up and says, "What do you want?" And I'm like, "Well, we have a couple questions about the menu. I don't know. I was told to come over and take your order. What do you want?" And we're like, "Gosh." And so we ordered, we got everything. It was fine, but she never came and refilled the water. She never came and refilled the coffee. At the end of the meal, she comes by the table and slams the bill on the table. And my friend and I literally sat back because we have every right to call that manager over and say something. And we kind of talked about it a little bit. And I thought, let's try something else. Now, this is early on. So I had no idea what I was doing, really, and had no idea what would happen. So we paid and we actually tipped her. We tipped her a normal tip. And then on my receipt, I put a smiley face and wrote, "You are designed to shine." Gathered up her stuff, headed on out the door. She chases after us. Tears,
Mm,
Tears. Thank you. I really needed to hear that today.
mm.
So you don't know what effect you're going to have on someone. You don't know that impact, and you don't know what someone else is going through. Yeah, she was rude. I totally get it. She was rude. Um, and we could have complained. We had every right, but we chose not to. So that's the other thing. What's your intention and what choices are you making? And the other story, which is recently in the news, that I want people to really pay attention to because there was so much to this what small exchange. It was a Target employee. She had a red t-shirt on. I think it was like a Charlie Kirk supporter or whatever. And this woman had her phone and she's going after her with her phone saying, "Why are you wearing that shirt?" She goes, "Well, I can wear any red shirt as an employee. That's Target's rule." And yeah, but it's a Charlie Kirk shirt. And she goes, "Well, yes, it is." And the lady's, "Yeah, but he's a racist and he's this awful, horrible person." And she starts cussing at this woman and using, it was horrible. And she's filming because she thinks she's going to catch a moment. And the woman, you're entitled to your opinion, but I'm entitled to mine. And she starts to walk away. And the woman's chasing her with the phone. And she said, and love this woman. He turns to her and says, "You have a nice day." And then the video cuts off there. But how we respond to each other makes all the difference in the world. And that's why making kindness a foundation, making it as natural as breathing, then it's going to be so much easier for us to respond kindly when someone's chasing you down with a cell phone and yelling and screaming at you.
I love that. And you know what? You're giving such good examples of what I mean when we say we're not here to label people right or wrong, good or bad, because even in the moments of that waitress waiting on you, that person waiting on you, um, you were able to sit there and go, I can be reactive in this situation. I can
Yes.
react to the behavior I'm receiving by calling the manager, by making a complaint, or I can respond and understanding, you know what, there is something going on here. I'm not aware of it because I'm not in her life, but I'm not going to allow it to take away my peace first and foremost, but I'm going to give a little bit of that back to her and say, you know what, in that little smiley face, and you're meant to shine in that little note, it's saying, you know what, I see you and I know that you're going through some stuff, but this too shall pass. That's the phrase that I use often, is like, you know what, this too shall pass, because it's also a reminder for me to sit there and go, I could get caught up in the emotion of it all, or I
Yeah.
can rely one on God, and two, know that it's a moment in time. It's not a life situation, and it will pass, and we'll come on the other side and we'll be okay. So I love
Well,
these
and
examples.
God has given us a blueprint in the Bible because I think it's Proverbs, soft answer turns away wrath. He's already telling us this is how you deal with the situation.
Mhm.
And I find that fascinating.
No, and you're absolutely right. Because I mean, and that's the whole intent behind all these, the fruit of the spirit, the fruit that if you are walking in peace and gentleness and kindness, like, you aren't going to be reactive to the things that are going around. You're being intentional, you're being purposeful, you're being very present in the moment, and you're going, okay, there's something else here. Now I can be another log on the fire, or I can help extinguish it. What am I going to do? So we always have that choice to make. So I love these examples. Let's talk, Teresa, a little bit about your book and what that looks like. What was the motivation behind it?
Yeah, my book is Raising Kind Children. And all of this was the motivation behind it because I know, and there are studies that show that we can make a difference. We can change the world. Why not start changing it in our schools and making our kids' experience at school so much better? And, so that's how it was. And it was a process because I was talking to people and like, write it down. And I'm like, okay, okay. And now I have to start on the second book. And they're like, why aren't you working on it? And I am procrastinating. I own it, but I'm working on it. I'm being obedient. I'm working on it. So this is the first one. It starts the process out, making that foundation, making kindness as natural as breathing with simple, easy day-to-day stuff.
Mm.
Grocery store interactions, bus driver interactions, traffic situations, all of those things. And again, I try to keep it very simple. It's a quick read on purpose, very simple for busy parents on the go who are running everywhere with their kids. I get it. That's why I took the book and made it simple and a quick read.
I love it. So what are some practices I'm interested in because you're teaching, so you're giving your gift out into the world and you're teaching people how to operate in kindness. What are some practices you do to help replenish your cup, like help fill it up and not burn out?
Yeah, you have to, and I say this to parents too. You can't be kind if your kindness tank is empty.
Hmm.
So for me, I do prayer, in the first thing in the morning. I have
Hmm.
my cup of tea. I sit down, or I also do a lot of have a lot of conversations with God while I'm walking the dog in the morning. Those are just little things that I do
Hmm.
and that I encourage parents to do, whether it's 15 minutes before everybody gets up with your cup of coffee, 15 minutes at night, hot bubble bath. I know one mom told me, I love this story. One mom told me, she goes, yes, I come home from work, my kids are home. I say, put my hand up, 15 minutes. She goes into her bedroom, shuts the door, takes off all the work stuff, figuratively, obviously, and then puts her mom hat back on, takes some deep breaths. 15 minutes later, she comes out. She's ready to face the evening with her kids and
Hmm.
all the running and dinners and everything that has to go on. So it's whatever works for you. I do give, I've given you some ideas, but keep your own kindness tank full, and you will again be easier to respond kindly.
Oh, I love that. And it takes me back. It pulls a memory from a situation. One morning I was walking into work and I'm a person that's like, "Hey, good morning. How are you?" And I had someone comment and go, "Oh, you must be a morning person." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." But I definitely take time to pray, meditate, and pour into myself before I step out of even my home and face the world so that I'm able to shine in that capacity of peace and love and, patience so that I'm not frustrated or rolling my eyes when somebody's approaching me or taking those deep breaths, but I'm actually regulated and enough to sit there and go, no, it'll be fine. Let's walk through it. Let me hear it. Let me take it on. What's going on? So I love that
And
you
that
said that.
reminded me, my little part-time job, I work with a lot of younger people, or 20s, in their 20s, and if there happens to be an early group that we have to entertain that morning, they have to come in and they are not happy about being there, and that's even at 9 o'clock in the morning. They
Mm.
don't want to be there. So one day one of them walks in and I said, oh, good morning, sunshine, and I swore she growled at me. and um and my son who's my boss said I was going to growl at you too. But then he came back later and said, I understand why you did that. He goes, it does make a difference. I said, there you go. There's your example. Live with it.
That's beautiful. Teresa, what would you want someone listening today who may be struggling with kindness, um, hear from you?
um, just be kind to start by being kind to yourself and
Mm.
take time to do that. Practice gratitude. If you're really just this whole kindness thing and my life is a mess and the world's, the sky is
Mhm.
falling kind of attitude, take
Mhm.
the time every day to come up with 5 things you're grateful for. And that can be, I woke up this morning.
Mhm.
I have a roof over my head. If we have to go down to basics, that's okay. I have hot running water. I, those are the kind of things that you have to start at the very bottom if that's what you need to do. But then once you do that and make it a practice, you're going to start saying, oh yeah, that person let me in traffic, and that was great. And oh, my coworker brought in brownies to share with everyone today. And you start to notice the good things and the kind things that are in your life. But you do have to take the time to practice that gratitude. And I say start with 5 things at the end of the day and practice with your kids. This is another thing. Have your kids practice 5 things they're thankful for that were really great that happened that day, and write it down.
I
And the
love it.
next thing you know, the more you practice that, you're not going to have 5 things. You're going to have 15 things.
Mm. I love it. It's such a good reminder too that growth rarely starts with trying harder. It starts with understanding ourselves more compassionately. When we slow down and look at the root, we give space for healthier fruit to grow. Before we wrap
Yes.
up, let's leave listeners with something that can carry with them today. So, if you could leave listeners with one thought, truth, or encouragement to help them stay more grounded and rooted in who they are becoming, what would it be?
And, I always, my goal is to be obedient to God. And there is a Bible verse I would love to share, and everyone take this to heart. It's 2 Timothy 2:24. The servant of the Lord must not participate in quarrels, but be kind to everyone, and be skilled in teaching patience and tolerance when you are wrong.
Mm, Such, you can't argue with the Bible, and such wise words come from it for sure. Before we close, Teresa, where can people connect with you or learn more about your work?
You can go out to journeyandkindness.com. I have a lot of things on there. You can go to contact, email me with questions. If you are a parenting group, PTA, PTO, whatever, I would be more than happy to come out and talk to you, go through this in more detail, give you some really practical step-by-steps.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you, Teresa, for sharing your story and your growth with us today. What I love about conversations like this is it reminds that transformation isn't about perfection. It's about awareness, healing, and intention. When we tend to the root, the fruit begins to change naturally. So for those of you that are listening, take a moment to reflect. Which inner quality feels hardest right now, and what part of your story might be asking for more care? For me, my faith is where the healing begins. And if you are curious about that journey, you're always welcome here. No pressure, no judgment, just a space to grow. So until next time, friends, stay rooted, stay real, and stay growing. I'm Angelina Mojica, your life coach, sending you much love, much peace, many blessings.